Hi, I'm Justin Boyd.
And I'm no longer undefeated.
And we are the Watchers in the Basement. Welcome to the Watchers in the Basement, and welcome to Watchers Football Weekly, a podcast within a podcast, and a podcast that's all about the pigskin. Today, we are here to discuss Week 11 of the NFL season. There's a lot to discuss. Let's get right to it. As Frank alluded to, well, Frank, it finally happened. Your Chiefs finally lost a game. The Bills got them 30-21, thanks to Josh Allen's late touchdown run on a fourth down play. What are your thoughts on the game?
I mean, look, I've seen reports and people talking about what's wrong with the Chiefs, and the Bills got them again. I'm like, look, the Bills have beaten us 4 times in a row in the regular season now. I think it's the 4th time now that they've beaten us in the regular season. They're a good team, man. Like, they're a good team. That fourth down play that Josh Allen made, it was a gutsy play. I mean, McDermott knows, like, I'm not going for the field goal. I thought it was the right call to go for it.
Yeah.
Because if you score, if you get the first down, you can milk the clock, or if you score, you can essentially end the game. And, a great player made a great play. Josh Allen, all six of him, he created space and ran down the field and scored a touchdown. It was a frustrating game, but this is what great players do, man. When their number is called, they make a play and they define the difference between wins and losses, and that was Josh Allen. This is historic with the Bills. I mean, with the Chiefs, they struggle getting pressure on Josh, and they struggle bringing him down. Like, he didn't get sacked not one time in that game. The few times that he got hurried, he was able to evade the rush. Chris Jones, who was a 6'6", 340-pound man, couldn't seem to bring him down. He had him by the waist a few times. It's just Josh Allen being Josh Allen, man. And I got to tip my cap off to them, and they did what they needed to do. Now, if you're the Chiefs, I think for them, you lost. You can reset now. You can focus on now playing more free and not playing as uptight. I think sometimes when you're undefeated for this duration of the season, this juncture of the season, sometimes you try to, even though it's not being said externally, I think players internally feel like we got to be perfect. We got to go for history. We got to make sure that we can, be on our P's and Q's playing perfect football. And, football is imperfect. And I think now that they have that one loss now, they can focus on getting back to the basics and, playing a free brand of football.
Yeah, I think you kind of play not to lose rather than to kind of go out there and seize the win, especially, when you're playing, top competition, which the Chiefs schedule, they played a pretty solid schedule. I mean, obviously it's going to get a little bit weaker on Sunday when they go to Carolina, but they've been playing some of the better teams in the league, and they obviously get everyone's best shot because they're the 2-time defending Super Bowl champions. Frank, you talked a little bit about the defense, about how they weren't able to stop Josh Allen. Really, who can? What about the offense? Once again, the Chiefs, managed only 21 points. What are your thoughts on what you saw on the offensive side of the ball Sunday?
I was talking to Tristan during the game, and so again, for the third quarter, we didn't score again. I think this might be the third or fourth straight game that we didn't score in the third quarter. And when they scored the last touchdown to make it 21, they went up tempo on that drive, and they were able to get in rhythm and be more aggressive. And I was telling Tristan, man, like, why don't they go up tempo, change up the pace a little bit to get Pat in a rhythm? Because I think when they go lethargic and methodical like that at times, it makes them conservative. Like, every first down, it's a run to Kareem Hunt, and then it's a holding call on second down. Before you know, it's 3rd and 12, and now you got to make up 12 yards, and the margin of error is so small. And I feel like if the Chiefs kind of change it up a little bit when they're struggling like that, go up tempo, just get in the rhythm like they did. They look good on that last touchdown drive, and I just think it was just too little, too late. The left tackle situation is still a problem. I think Pat still feels ghost and happy feet when he's trying to drop back to make throws. A lot of RPO, a lot of rolling out of the pocket or rolling away from the left tackle position, trying to create space. I think what the Chiefs need to do is start chipping a little bit more whether it's Wanya Morris or some Matea at left tackle, just to give Pat a little bit more time. One of these days, man, we're going to consistently hit that deep ball. I mean, I like how they targeted Worthy a little bit more, but again, there was another play. He was running free downfield and he couldn't get his feet down. Just play stuff like that can change the duration of a drive.
Oh yeah,
and circuit the duration of a game, and I think they're just not hitting all cylinders just yet. Juju came back this past game, but I just feel like they were so conservative that they didn't get themselves into a rhythm. And the defense I'm not really concerned with. It just you went against one of the best quarterbacks in football. Like it was no different when they went against Lamar Jackson in week 1. I mean, they couldn't stop him. Lamar did what he wanted to do for the most part, but that were great players like that. You can't really stop them. Your hope is just to slow them down and try to, disrupt them a little bit. But I'm not really concerned with the defense at all. I think they're fine. I think more so is just with the offense is just getting the rhythm up tempo a little bit more, and not be so complacent on first down. I would like them to take more shots on first down, just to loosen that defense a little bit up, a little bit more. I think once they do that, they'll be fine.
Yeah, I think maybe that might go into like the playing not to lose kind of mentality, like because you're playing a tough team on the road. You're trying to make every down count, whereas you're right. Sometimes you just got to let it fly and see what happens, and trust your talent. You referenced Tristan a little bit ago. I just want to mention, so he's not with us this week. He's not feeling well, so hopefully he starts feeling better, and we'll have him back next week. But
feel better, bro.
Yeah, just want to let everybody know about that. And before we go any further, I wanted to say thanks to all the people who are in the chat right now. To Drew, our brother from the north, join us for the NFL show for maybe the first time, and we will talk about your. Back. What's that?
I got to text him back. I text him earlier. I got to text him back.
And Drew, we will talk about your Packers here in a little bit. Don't worry, because they played the Bears, one of our favorite punching bags on this podcast. And then also King B Johnson, as always. Thanks for join us in the chat. We appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Frank, sticking with the AFC West, let's talk about the Chargers Bengals game Sunday night. Wild game. The Chargers looked like they had the game under control, had a 20-point lead. The Bengals battle back as Joe Burrow and T. Higgins and Jamar Chase were just putting up crazy numbers. But then in the end, the Chargers found a way to win on a J.K. Dobbins touchdown run right before the end of regulation. What did you think about this game from both sides? You got the Chargers, who are 7-3. They're just 2 games back of the Chiefs. And conversely, you got the Bengals, who lost another game. Now they're 4-7. I mean, how many more can they lose before they're out of it?
They can't. The margin of error is empty now. They have to win. They have to win out, because now you lose every single tiebreaker known to man in AFC. They got games against Denver, 2 games against Pittsburgh. I think 1 game against the Browns. They can't lose any more games. They fucked off 3 games they should have won, and so that it's put them in dire straits now as far as the lack of margin of error. For the Bengals, man, it's the same thing, man. Like offensively, they explode. They put up points in bunches. They started off slow, but they got hot and just key plays, man. And this time it was the kicker. Normally it's their defense. The defense gave up, I think, 21 points in the first half. Was getting just destroyed by Herbert. I think Herbert has his best passing day this season against them on Sunday night. But again, like they had the game in the bag. They just 2 missed kicks, man, by McPherson. I don't know what's going on with these kickers, man. Like I know we'll talk about the Ravens game later on tonight, but like kickers were just they goated Sunday, man. Like McPherson's a great kicker. He's a really good kicker, a young kicker who makes key kicks in big games. He just didn't come through when he needed to. I think that hurt them. But I mean, Joe Burrow is putting up an MVP type of season. Only difference is he won't have the wins to back that up, but he's not the problem at all. Jamar Chase is leading the league in catches and receiving yards, so he ain't the problem. I mean, even though Higgins has been in and out of the lineup, the offense is robust. There's just, again, whether there's a defense or special teams, they can't seem to put all 3 phases together throughout the duration of a game. For the Chargers, I mean, they won, but I think it was more of the Bengals letting the game slip away than the Chargers winning.
Yeah.
Because when you watch the Chargers, man, J.K. Dobbins only had 11 carries. And I think the backup running back had 5 carries. When they were up by like 3 scores, they got away from the running game and they started like going back to like the Chargers of old, like throwing the ball way too much and like not dominating the line of scrimmage, which they've done all throughout the season. Like they've dominated the line of scrimmage, dominated time of possession, but for some reason Jim Harbaugh decided to like go haywire with the passing game, and like they had some 3 and outs with no time came off the clock, and the Bengals were able to get the ball back to like go on that scoring binge. But no, I what I need to see from the Chargers was, can they be a capable quarterback? Like, because like they hadn't really beaten anybody worth a damn at the quarterback position, and I needed to see that. And you know, they gave up big plays. Don't get me wrong, they gave up big plays in this game, especially to Jamar Chase. What is up with teams not doubling the number 1 guy, like when it matters most? They all out blitzed and left Jamar Chase, like one of the touchdowns on 4th and goal. They left Jamar Chase on the backside 1-on-1 on a cover 0 blitz. I'm like, what are you doing? You know Burrow is going to look for him. Why are you leaving him 1-on-1 on 4th and goal? Like, if anything, I'm doubling him up and like just manning everybody else on the other side of the field. But questionable play calling and questionable decision making by the Chargers, but they were able to sneak this one out to go 7-3.
Yeah, it was a game that like I was kind of casually, like kind of passively watching. And I thought it was over, honestly, at halftime. I thought, oh, this is like the Bengals are for sure done. And I still think they're done. They're not making the playoffs, but they fought back, which was good to see. And like you said, Burrow's putting up crazy numbers. If this were Major League Baseball, he'd be the MVP.
Yeah.
Major League Baseball, Mike Trout can finish 40 games behind the Astros and win the MVP, and it's not even a big deal. But
he's first in passing, first in touchdowns. He has a 27-4 touchdown to interception ratio. He's number 1 in QBR as well. Like he's earning those checks.
yeah, playing very well. As you mentioned, though, their kicker had a rough day. And speaking of kickers who had rough days, let's go to that Steelers Ravens game, because the Bengals, they're looking up at both the Steelers and Ravens. The Steelers pulled it out. The classic Steelers Ravens rivalry kind of lived up to its name. Defensive battle. The Steelers never found the end zone. They got 6 field goals from Chris Boswell to beat the Ravens 18-16. They're now leading the division at 8-2, while the Ravens are 7-4. The Ravens, Justin Tucker missed a couple field goals. He's had a really rough year, and he's been one of the best kickers in the NFL his entire career. But I think maybe we're seeing the end of Justin Tucker.
Yeah, I mean, I think with kickers, man, they kind of remind me of like relief pitchers and closers. Like when they're dominant, they're on, and then like once they hit a cliff, it's a precipitous drop pretty quickly. Just a year ago, was it the Lions game? No, it was 2 years ago against the Lions where he hit the NFL record 65 or 66 yarder to win the game, and like he was sitting on top of the world, right? And like now he can't seem to hit a 40-yard field goal. He made a 54-yard field goal in this game, but he missed 2 crucial kicks that would have gave him a 4-point lead in the 4th quarter. These Steelers Ravens games, man, are going to be ugly. They're going to be a drag them out and knock them out type of style, because both these teams are very physical. Lamar historically struggles against Pittsburgh as far as like stat wise, numbers wise, especially with the pass. But even with that, they had some key drops too. Zay Flowers had a key crucial drop on that last drive in the 4th quarter that would have gave them a first down. You know what's crazy? Like they acquired Deontay Johnson, and like I don't think he's played much or has gotten many targets. Like I don't. Yeah. Maybe because I was going back and forth between that game and some other games, but I haven't seen him make any splash plays since the acquisition.
Yeah, he was referenced on the broadcast, but you're right. I don't remember really anything he's done since he's joined the team. That's interesting.
It's very interesting. He had no catches in this game, and then the game coming back, the first game of the trade, he had I think one catch, and the media asked him how do you feel about your targets? He's like, asked the coaching staff, like it was like an in jest remark about the coaching staff. So
Yeah,
I don't know, man. I don't know what's going on in Baltimore, but Pittsburgh's for real. They're for real. I needed to see. I need to see them play against the foes, and like now at 8-2, you had your you're really 3 games up because you have the tiebreaker now.
yeah.
They're sitting pretty, man. They're a dangerous team going into the playoffs. I mean, I had them as a playoff team, but I didn't think they'll win the division.
Yeah.
I had the Bengals in that, but like now, I mean, they can rush the passer. Najee Harris has a resurgence now as running the football. The moon ball is back with the deep ball with Russell Wilson. This team is good in all 3 phases, man. They're a dangerous team. I don't know if they win the division. I don't think anybody wants to go there in Pittsburgh in January.
Yeah,
this team is on all cylinders,
and they're still very much alive for the 1 seed. I mean,
absolutely.
So, yeah. And I think going into the season, I don't think any of us saw them being this good. I mean, like with their quarterback situation, especially with the Justin Fields, Russell Wilson. Not sure who was going to start. Not sure who was going to like win that battle and finish the season as a starter. If either one of them were, and the fact they're 8-2, and you're right, that's a tough place to play. I mean, after what Bane did to it in The Dark Knight Rises, I'm just surprised anybody wants to go there. Period. But it really shows the love that Steelers fans have for their team and for football, honestly. So, sticking with Pennsylvania teams, let's talk about the Thursday night game. We saw the Eagles beat the Commanders, and also once again a pretty good Thursday game. I mean, competitive Thursday game, but a game that had big stakes in the NFC East. You had the Eagles got the win behind Saquon Barkley. He had a big second half, and they're now in first place in that division. Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry, 2 running backs, a position that is undervalued. Also, you could throw Joe Mixon in there. We'll talk about Joe Mixon a little bit more in a little bit, but these are all off-season acquisitions, and these are, I think, the 3 best acquisitions of the offseason.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like these are key players. Yeah,
yeah, I agree. I think football is simple. I know the Madden era guys want to make it cute and go 5 wide and like throw the ball 50 times a game and RPO this. And look, can you move a man against his will in the trenches? Yeah. Can you run the ball and can you possess time of possession? If you can do those 2 things, you will win a lot of football games. And with the Eagles, I think, a lot of credit to Kellen Moore, man. A lot of credit to him. I think at the beginning of the season, he was still trying to work out how to use Jalen Hurts. I mean, there was a lot of like disjointedness with the offense. I thought that they threw the ball a little bit too much. But I think what disaster in disguise was when AJ Brown got hurt and when Devontae Smith got hurt. They had to rely on the running game. And rely on the running game, you found out that your identity should be the running game. Like Saquon Barkley, he's a needle mover, and he's a guy when you give him carries, whether it's throwing the ball to him and out of the backfield or give him touches, he's going to be productive, and he's shown that all year long. I mean, as far as the MVPs, I know we talk about quarterbacks, Lamar Jackson and Jared Goff and whatever, man. Like, dude, like Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley have transformed these offenses, and I think we got to pay homage to that, man. Like, we got to give them credit where credit's due. Like, the Eagles are dangerous. Like, and not just that, like, they have a secondary now that locks the fuck up. Like, the Quinton Mitchell, like he's a rookie corner. Reed Blankenship and Cooper DeJean. Cooper DeJean's a rookie safety out of Iowa. Right. They lock up. Like Terry McLaurin, Scary Terry had 1 catch. 1 catch.
Yeah.
They showed Quinn Mitchell's stats against all the number 1 receivers, and nobody has over 50 yards receiving against him all year long. He's played against Drake London, Scary Terry. He's played against a bunch of number 1 receivers, and they are struggling with him. He's making a name for himself. And if he's not careful, and I'm saying this in a good way, he's gonna fuck around and be on an all-pro team this year. Like he's playing some great football at the cornerback position. And they, last year that was a problem for them. They couldn't stop a nosebleed, in the secondary. And now they got 3 young guys who are just playing out of their minds. And Jalen Hurts has played great football the last month. He's limited turnovers, especially in the red zone, and controlling the clock as well, and making smart throws downfield, especially with the RPO game with AJ and Devontae. They're a good team, man. They're gonna be a problem. And if the number 1 seed is also in play for them as well.
Absolutely.
If they can keep things going. So on the Commander side, look, I said I had a Commanders as a wild card team coming out. When I expect this team to struggle. This is the seasons of a young quarterback. Jane Daniels has hit the rookie wall a little bit, and but I think with them, they got to run the ball a little bit more. I mean, I know Brian Robinson was out for a while. He's back. They got to recommit to that run with him and Eckler, and really just make that the nucleus of their offense. And I think they'll be fine. But he's struggling, but the talent's still there. He's going to be okay. Their schedule gets a little bit soft as well. They play Dallas coming up. That will be a win.
Yeah, I was going to mention that.
So they'll be fine. I mean, they're in good shape.
Yeah, the Eagles have won 6 straight. Conversely, the Commanders have lost 2 in a row. But as you pointed out, Sunday the Commanders host the Cowboys. That should be a win. Let's transition to last night's Monday Night Football game, which was a loss for the Cowboys. Their 5th straight. They lost the Houston Texans in Dallas, or in Arlington, I should say. It was the Texans' first ever win at AT&T Stadium. Granted, they don't play there that often, but the in-state rivalry, which again, because they don't play enough, it's not too much of a rivalry, but it's a big deal for the fans. Yeah. And it's a big win for the Texans because the Texans have not looked good in the last month or so, but they came away with a 34-10 win behind 3 touchdowns and over 100 plus yards from Joe Mixon. What are your thoughts on the Cowboys-Texans game?
The Cowboys are getting ready for 2025. It's 1-2-3 Cancun. Like that team is not invested. They look sluggish. They don't look like they want to be there. Yeah. Jake Paul has won in Texas Stadium. Taylor Swift has won in Texas Stadium. Like everybody has won at Texas Stadium except for the Cowboys this year. Like they still have not won a game there. It's amazing. I have never seen a team this deep into the season not have a win at home. It's almost amazing how bad they look.
Yeah.
Poor Cooper Rush, man. He's doing what he can. I mean, it's just the route running the Cowboys have, the route runners, their separation or lack thereof is so bad. Like I'm watching that game and like even the replays of like CD, like when he's not like he's rounding his routes off, he's pretty much jogging his routes like. He shows no interest. Jalen Tolbert, number 1, looks like he's trying to figure it out. Like he's not a good route runner either. I don't know if it's just by design of them not wanting to be there, or it's more so of them like knowing that Dak is out, but like or the season's over. But you can tell in their body language. Yeah. Micah Parsons has been back. I haven't noticed Micah Parsons on the field the last couple of weeks. Like, he has not made any plays, and like this is a contract year for him. Like he's going to get big. He's going to get paid big money, and like I'm starting to think that he's not a big time player, because even when he's on in big games, he doesn't show up. And if you're Dallas, and I said this last year about Dak, if you're gonna pay the Trayvon Diggs, the Micah Parsons, the Dak Prescotts of the world, you better have a good team of depth behind those guys, because they're top heavy salary cap wise, but those players are not transcending in like lifting the team up around them. They're not needle movers, Right. Like when I see Saquon in Philadelphia, he's a difference maker. When I watch Derrick Henry, he's a difference maker. When I see Jalen Ramsey make plays with Miami, he's a difference maker. I don't see that with their top players. I see he puts up numbers, but right. it gives me Kevin Love and Minnesota Timberwolves vibe, like just like empty calories. And if you're Dallas, you have to ask yourself this, like, do we want to pay these guys? Should we move these guys and just do a rebuild? Because your cap is your salary cap is now wrecked. It's now fucked. You don't have any flexibility, and you don't have to build through the draft to like try to get talent around them, around the guy that you've already paid. As for the Houston Texans, that was one of the most struggle bus blowouts I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah,
the Texans look disjointed. They can't seem to get the timing down with their receivers. CJ Stroud is, and case in point, he's in a sophomore year, and I think he's hit a little bit of a sophomore slump.
Yeah,
not just CJ. I think their OC has hit a little bit of a sophomore slump as well too.
Right.
He was a hot name last year, but now he's kind of hit a wall himself as a play caller, and I think for them the best thing they have going right now is Mixon. And I think they need to be more of a run focused offense and try to incorporate play action a little bit more, use Dalton Schultz more as well. And I don't know, maybe they've been disjointed since Nico got hurt, and more so since Diggs got hurt too. And I don't know if that plays a part in why CJ's struggling, but they need to figure that out. I know when Nico's back, he's back now, and it'll take a couple weeks to get his legs up under him again. But we talked about this in the office today, man. Like, if they win their division, which they probably will, I don't think the Colts are going to catch them. Who can they beat in the playoffs? I mean, if they play Denver, if they play the Chargers at home, can we definitely say that that's a win?
No,
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if it is. If they play Miami, if let's say Miami gets hot and gets in, Tyreek and Waddle and those guys coming into Houston on that turf, all at speed, can we say that's the definitive win as well? I don't know.
No, I mean, maybe they could beat Denver. I think Denver is the most likely the team that they could beat in a playoff game, but they're not beating Baltimore. They're not beating the Chargers. I don't think they'd beat the Dolphins. I think the Dolphins, I mean, unless they knocked out Tua early, like they wouldn't be able to keep up with that team. The defense would have to play out of their minds, and Mixon would have to, score 4 touchdowns or something for them to have a chance. So, yeah, it's the Texans there. Like you said, they're going to win their division. They're 7-4, and they've got basically a 3-game lead on the Colts and the tiebreaker. So they're going to win the division. But I will be very surprised if they make it past the wild card round of the playoffs this year.
Like, case in point, let's say Baltimore gets on a streak and like Pittsburgh falls off a little bit and they become a wild card, and Pittsburgh comes to Houston. I don't know who's better. I don't think it'd be Pittsburgh.
No,
it's tough sledding, man. I don't know matchup wise who you would take in their favor.
No, I totally agree. Totally agree with that. Yeah, it's tough for the Texans. I mean, they needed the win though. They really needed a win, especially over this Cowboys team, especially after that Jets loss a few weeks ago, which that Jets loss looks worse and worse. And speaking of the Jets, so not only did they lose on Sunday to the Colts, 28-27, the return of Anthony Richardson to the starting lineup for the Colts, but then today they fired their GM. So now they've already fired their coach, fired their GM. They're 3-8. And this is maybe the worst team in the NFL, not record wise, but the worst situation probably, right?
Yeah, the Jets, they don't deserve a top 5 pick. They don't deserve it. They're gonna have one of the worst records in football.
Yeah,
but they don't deserve it. Like, Aaron Rodgers has fucked that team off so bad, and like the front office has given him so much power. It's like now it's like, who's gonna get fired next week? Is it gonna be the special teams coach? Is it gonna be the quality control guy? Like, they keep firing all these people, but like they're not looking at the play of the quarterback that they gave up a haul to bring to New York. Like, he has not played well. he's not, he's inconsistent. He looks washed. Like he's struggling, and they keep on like trying to. When you fire all these people, you're making it worse. That you're making it more obvious that Aaron Rodgers is the problem. Because you keep losing games. You keep firing all these people, but you're still losing games, and you're still losing games in atrocious fashions. the Devontae Adams trade has been a bonfire. Like he went from one 3-8 team to another 3-8 team, and it's just like you you have no excuse between. If I told you have Devontae Adams, Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson as a quarterback, in your mind you're like, oh shit, I'm about to put up numbers.
Yeah,
he's not doing that, and so it's like, what are we doing as a franchise? Like, this is a joke to like divert all the attention from Aaron by finding everybody else that has nothing to do with like why you're struggling. He's the why you're struggling, and the defense. Like they haven't played well either. I mean, they keep giving up. You know, like I don't know what's going on with the defense. Like Robert Saleh was the defensive guy when he was there. They were playing. You know, they had the ins and outs this year, but they were playing fine. Like since he's been fired and let go, they've been worse defensively. Sauce Gardner, I don't know what. Like it's like the Monstars took his talent. He can't tackle anymore. He can't cover anybody. Like he's like, I don't know if it's just like he's just not mentally there, but he's eroded as well as a player.
Yeah.
You know, Hassan Reddick, I haven't heard his name since he's been back. He hasn't done anything. Like it's like you keep blaming everybody, but you're not looking at the people on the field that's not producing that you're paying. So I don't know.
Yeah, it looks like they're gonna like fully overhaul this team or try to, but I do wonder with you bring up Aaron Rodgers, he's under contract for next year. And he said recently, I think a week or so ago, that he plans on playing next year. Now it may not be with the Jets, but I'm not sure where it's going to be because you know, he's in that point where obviously great player, great career, but he kind of wants to have everything his way. And he's not good enough for that anymore. You know, like you're not the special like MVP guy. You're just a guy. I mean, and honestly, numbers wise, you're actually worse than Zach Wilson was, you know, winning percentage wise, which is, you know, hard to say because watching those Zach Wilson games last year was last couple of years was pretty tough, but he's doing worse than that. So and he does the same stuff where, you know, he doesn't turn the ball over a ton, but he doesn't put the ball down the field either. He's very conscious of his stats. He's very conscious of like his, you know, touchdown interception ratio, and he likes to keep that clean. I get it, but like you're gonna have to put the ball down the field, especially when, you know, receiver is kind of where you're strong on the team right now. I mean, Breece Hall is also playing well. I mean, they have good players on that team. Like it's not like they're not the least talented team in the NFL, but results wise, they're right there at the bottom with some of the worst teams in the league. So
like Aaron Rodgers, he's moving around like these years don't count towards his Hall of Fame campaign. Like that's how he's moving around. Like, oh, these years don't count. Like I've done my greatness in Green Bay, and like this, people will forget about this. No, they will not forget about this. This is a stain on your resume, a big stain. And
well, especially when you consider how well Tom Brady played. You know, I mean, I think today if Tom Brady was playing, I still think he'd be one of the 10 or 12 best quarterbacks in the NFL. And Aaron Rodgers is not one of those 10 or 12 guys. He's just
And that's the difference between a guy who breeds winning, who brings a winning culture wherever he goes, and a guy who's aloof, who's arrogant, who doesn't bring leadership and like lifts the people around him. Like he doesn't do that, and that's been the main difference. And here's the problem. This is the problem with the Jets. Like, let's say you have the number one pick and you draft Shador, you still have a problem with your front office. Like, can we say over the last decade, do you trust the Jets front office to like the draft and develop talent? Like, I don't. Like, there has been no examples of them over the last decade. I think was since less in the playoffs. Sanchez, 2012, 2011, 2010.
Maybe, yeah. No, they went to like AFC title games with the Sanchez. A couple of those, yeah.
They haven't sniffed the playoffs since then. That's a front office issue as well. Like you've had number one picks, you had top 5 picks, you spent money in free agency, and you're still not getting it done on the field. That's not a player issue. That's a talent evaluation issue.
Yeah, and right now they don't have anybody in the GM spot. I mean, I'm sure they'll figure it out at some point, but tough for the New York teams. And might as well mention this. The Giants didn't play this week, which was great for all of us because we didn't have to watch them. But when we do get to watch them again, when they do return this week, it'll be Tommy DeVito. He'll be the starting quarterback. Danny Dimes is going to the bench. Interesting move because they signed Drew Lock in the offseason to be the backup, but they're going with Tommy DeVito, who played some last season. Frank, I wonder, is this a move like they think that Drew Lock might accidentally help them win, and Daniel Jones might accidentally help them win a game, especially with that Cowboys game looming on Thanksgiving Day, which I've talked about for a few weeks, which on paper might be the worst Thanksgiving matchup we've ever seen. Interesting move to go with Tommy DeVito over Drew Lock, I think.
Yeah, it's
Not that Drew Lock is like, Brett Favre or something, but it's like I don't really understand you sign this guy, but now your undrafted guy is going to be the starter. Weird.
Yeah, this is my problem with fandom. Fans bother me from this standpoint of like, you want to be diehard, you want to be invested, and like no matter what. When you are invested and you keep spending money and you keep going to games to teams that don't deserve your money, like the Giants have fucked off $40 million a year in that position. Daniel Jones has been below average at best since signing that contract. And before he signed the contract, that season that they had when they made the playoffs, that wasn't because of Daniel Jones. That was because the guy that you let go and who's in Philly right now, and Saquon Barkley. That's the guy that
right.
You rolled it back to go into the playoffs. And it's insulting to fans to like pay a guy that kind of money, dress him up, and say, hey, this guy's a winner. We're gonna ride behind this guy. And then as fans of blue collar nature in New York, you spend your hard earned money on merchandise and ticket sales and like all this, and this is the brand that they put on the field. It's a slap in the face, but this is the fans' fault. Like I blame the New York fans for supporting this garbage over the last 4 years. This team is not good, and it's like you're putting lipstick on a pig by paying these guys. Like when you look at the offensive roster. Tracy Jones Jr. running back, Malik Neighbors receiver. They have a nice young tight end, Darius Slade. They have pieces, good pieces. Like if you have a decent quarterback there, they can win games, 9 to 10 games a year if you have good pieces there. And the fact that as fans that you keep spending money and going to these games tells me that you don't give a fuck and you're totally fine of being mediocre, below mediocre, or bad because the Giants brass don't give a fuck about you or your fandom because they keep making these bad decisions and insulting your intelligence by saying, "Oh, we're spending money, we're going in free agency, but look what you're producing." Like this is a joke, and that's why I have a problem with fandom. Like, look, I love my Chiefs, man. If Andy Reid retires tomorrow or this April, and Veach leaves, and a giant clone GM and a Brian Dable on top of head coach takes the helm in Kansas City and gives me 3 or 4 bad seasons of what I'm seeing in both New York franchises, I'm done. I'm out of there. Yeah. I think fandom should be conditional, and it should be based on results and not just blind loyalty. I think a lot of these teams, man, they go off the blind loyalty and be like, no matter what we do, they're going to support us. So like, there's no pressure on us, and that's where teams like the Giants and Jets fuck up at. So
I mean, the Northeast is a little bit different though. Like all those Northeast teams, Philadelphia, those places, like they just have more rabid fans because of. I mean, there's a lot of factors. I mean, obviously their weather is pretty bad a lot of the time. They're just more. They've always been more invested in sports, and so I don't really blame the fans so much because there's so many people in New York that like they've got a ton of people that are waiting to go to those games or want to go to those games. Now whether they should or not, I agree with you. Like I wouldn't be excited to go to a Giants or Jets game. I wouldn't want to spend a single dime on Danny Dimes or any of these guys, like because they're a real tough watch, and those franchises have been a real tough watch for most of my lifetime. Honestly, like thinking about the Giants, like, you know, they've had a, they've won Super Bowls in my lifetime, and like, even though times they won the Super Bowls, I didn't think they were very good. Like they were teams I never wanted to watch. So, yeah, tough days are still hanging around in New York, but we've talked about them probably enough. Let's move on to from the New York teams that are quarterback challenged. Let's talk about the division that probably has the best quarterbacks, or the best quarterback division is probably the best division in football. And Drew, listen up. We're talking about the NFC North now. Let's go to the Lions. They absolutely obliterated the Jaguars. They scored 52 points for the second time this season. Only team that scored 50. They scored it twice. They absolutely rolled over the Jaguars. There's probably not a ton to talk about in that game. The Lions have won 8 in a row. They look like they're obviously the best team in the NFC. Then you have the Packers, who, not a pretty win, but they got the win over the Titans like they should. And then finally, let's talk about the Packers and Bears game. 2019, the Packers beat the Bears once again, the 11th straight time they've beaten the Bears, which I thought, you could have told me it was like 31 times in a row, because it seems like they always beat the Bears. They have, once again, my whole life, I don't remember too many Bears wins over the Packers. But this one was interesting because the Bears definitely had a chance, but the Pack blocked a potential game-winning field goal, and they got the win in Chicago. What are your thoughts on that game?
Man, it's just the Packering against the Bears, man. It's like doesn't matter what era we're in, who's a quarterback, who's the coaches. It seems like the Packers always gets the best of the Bears. Dude, how many games can the Bears lose in dramatic fashion, man? This is becoming comical, man. And I think these losses are just synonymous with like the coaching staff or lack thereof when it comes to like preparation and like putting the players in like good positions to be successful. Like Caleb Williams is like eroding, and it's not because of Caleb Williams. It's like they fired Shane Waldron right before the game or last week, and like nothing's really changed. I think that coaching staff is just way out of the league when it comes to developing talent. That coaching staff ruined Justin Fields, and I think if they are there past this year, they're going to ruin Caleb Williams. And yeah, I don't think the Bears coaching staff is long for this NFL world. I think those guys are going to be getting pink slips come January. I think Shane Waldron getting fired was just the tip of the iceberg. I think it's just a warning shot. I think the rest of the guys are going to be done by January. So for the Packers, man, it wasn't pretty.
Yeah.
But they got it done. I'm still trying to figure out who the Packers are as far as like in the hierarchy of the NFC. It's funny. I was Tristan and I we had a debate about Jordan Love, and this is what I said about Jordan Love. And like, Drew, don't hate me when I say this. Jordan Love is a wonderful talent, but Jordan Love has never seen a passing window he did not like. Like this, he tried like he's a Jay Cutler that cares. That's who he is. Like he is a guy that's going to gun that motherfucker. He's gonna throw through it. If he sees a cornerback, he's gonna try to throw through that motherfucker to get to that receiver. Like that's just who he is. Yeah. I know Matt LaFleur he's a great young coach. I love Matt LaFleur, but Matt LaFleur is gonna have a challenge on his hands of trying to get that out of Jordan Love, some of the risk averseness that he needs to have a little bit of. Like it makes Jordan Love good. Like that's what makes Jordan Love is the ability to make these throws, high level throws. But man, he gives you a lot of no. Okay, all right, cool. Like he gives you a lot of that. So I think the Packers, man, they're a good team, but they don't go as far as Jordan Love takes them. And it's going to be a wild ride going these next 7 games of the regular season with him.
Yeah, and I was talking about running backs earlier, and Drew made a good point in the chat about Josh Jacobs. I forgot to mention him. He was he a free agent signing? I think he was a signing, right? Or
yeah,
was he a signing. Signing. So another running back who's really played very well, and the Packers, they're a lot of close games, but they're winning. They're 7-3, and they're keeping pace with that division, which includes the 9-1 Lions and the 8-2 Vikings. So I think those 3 teams are going to be in the playoffs. And the Bears, they're 4-6, but like you said, they've had a couple of heartbreaking losses. And despite obviously their coaching issues, I still think they're a team on the rise. I really do. I feel like not that it's like a, you don't get like consolation prizes for like, being more competitive than you have been in the past, but like I do think it means something the fact that they're in these games and not just getting blown out. And they're, because they do have talent, and they've got some running backs, they've got obviously receivers, and Caleb, he's a rookie. Like I think his talent is he's a very talented player, obviously, and we're gonna see he's gonna get better. But if this is the worst it is for the Bears, it's looking up for them, because this is the franchise, much like I said about the Giants, except for the Bears haven't won nearly as much as the Giants have in my lifetime. The Bears have never had great quarterback play, and have never been a fun offensive team that I can really ever remember. So the fact that they have a quarterback, the fact that they have a quarterback of the future who's playing, and they're in a couple of games, I think that means something toward the future, because this division is really good. You got to bring it every week, or you're going to fall behind, and they've fallen behind. I think they're going to finish last in the division, but they still have a future, whereas some teams don't. Like the Jets don't have the future the Bears do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think if you're Ben Johnson, man, if the Lions end this fairy tale season with Super Bowl trophy, Ben Johnson might, if you're Chicago, you might need to fly Ben Johnson to Chicago on a private jet and try to get him to sign and be Caleb Williams as a quarterback whisperer.
Yeah. Yeah, that might be interesting. There's a lot of chatter about Ben Johnson. Last year he didn't want to leave, and there's a lot of talk this season about how I've seen some quotes that I don't know if they've been attributed to him, but how he's going to be very selective if he does leave the Lions. So, but I do think like at some point if you have a chance to be a head coach, you've got to take the chance, because you stick around too long and you're going to miss your chance. We probably saw that with Bobby Slowak here in Houston, where that team offensively has regressed. So we'll see if they can also turn that around, see what happens with Bobby Slowak in the future. Kind of wrapping it up on the NFL, let's talk about the wide open NFC West. I say wide open. Obviously, the Cardinals, who are leading the division 6-4, they didn't play this weekend, but the other teams did, including that Seahawks 49ers game. Frank, what did you think about that? The 49ers, had beaten the Seahawks 6 straight times, didn't make it a lucky number 7 thanks to a Geno Smith scramble with like 12 seconds to go to win the game. What are your takeaways from the 49ers, who are now 5-5?
Same thing I've been saying all year long, man. I'm starting to question Mike Shanahan's game managing skills. Like this, they keep blowing leads. Like this is been a problem in 2024, year of our Lord. They can't seem to hold on to a lead and take care of a lead, and like saw the game away. And McCaffrey's back. Like there's no excuse. Like you have, I mean, I know they don't have Brandon Ayuk, but you have enough weapons. And I know Kittle didn't play, but you were at home. This is a chance to sweep Seattle for the season. Get back in the race. A game behind Arizona, with another Arizona matchup looming in the near future, and you let it slip away. Like, and I know Bosa got hurt. I watched that game, and Bosa, something happened to Bosa. I don't know if he strained something, but he didn't play in the fourth quarter. And man, they missed his pass rushing because Geno was looking like Lamar Jackson out there. Like he was taking off, and he was moving around the pocket and extending plays, and Geno was Geno. He made great plays, and then he gave plays right to San Fran. I mean, that's who Geno's been all year long. But when it mattered most, he made that scramble to win the game. I think getting DK Metcalf back was huge for them too. He had missed the last few games with an injury. Jackson Smith-Njigba, man, he is becoming. You're seeing less and less Mr. Lockett, and that guy he might be your number one. He's a better route runner than DK. He seems to always get open. Just another Ohio State receiver, man, just making plays out there. Seattle needed that. They needed that because they had been wheeling for a while. I think they had lost 6 of 7 after going 3-0 or 4-1 or whatever. So that was a big win for them, and now they're in third place in a crowded NFC West. and they got games left with the Rams and the Cardinals. So
Yeah.
it's gonna be shoot 'em up, wild wild west. And I mean, if San Francisco not careful, they could miss the playoffs.
Yeah.
This is the fifth loss now. So this is a big month for them going to December. You can't lose any more games, man, especially NFC games.
Yeah, I don't think the 49ers are making the playoffs. I said that a few weeks ago, even after they beat the Cowboys in that Sunday night game. I mean, it was a win, but I was like, I just don't like what I see from this team. And you mentioned about Bosa, and while they had, the Niners have some of the best talent in the league, but for whatever reason, their best players are some of those injury-prone dudes in the league. Kittle, Samuel. I mean, obviously, Ayuk's done for the year. Bosa. I mean, these are guys they're hurt like every other week. Obviously, McCaffrey, he missed like the first 9 weeks of the season or 10 weeks or whatever. They're just perennially banged up. And Brock Purdy has played pretty well, but he can only do so much. And that defense has definitely regressed. That is not an elite defense anymore. It's a middle of the pack, maybe kind of defense. And watching the end of that game, I was not surprised at all the Seahawks won that game. When they got the ball back and they had a little bit of time, I was like, Gino's going to take them down and score. It's really just going to be how much time was to be left on the clock for San Francisco to try to get field goal range for their kicker to likely miss a kicker they spent a third or fourth round pick on, which got to say, I would not be doing that if I were a GM for a kicker. That team's a mess, honestly.
I also think too, Justin, that team has been competitive for 5-6 seasons now. Like 3 or 4 NFC championship games, deep playoff runs. Then it might be the war of attrition, man. That team might have just reached its end as far as high-end competitiveness as a Super Bowl contender. Like Kittle was on that 2019 team that went to the Super Bowl and lost. Debo was a rookie that year. Christian McCaffrey, he's been used a lot the last couple of years, and I think not to say that they're long on the tooth, but they've been through a lot of deep playoff runs, which is just extra wear and tear on the body, and they're starting to play like it. They look like a team that's just worn out and beat up.
They look like an old injury-prone team. That's what they look like. And then, I don't know if they're necessarily old, but they're definitely beat up, and it's showing on the field and in the standings. Let's talk about the Rams. Finally, the Rams beat the Patriots 28-22 behind 4 touchdown passes from Matthew Stafford. New England, they're 3-8. They're not obviously very good, but with Drake May, they're pretty frisky. They're in these games. I would think if you're a fan of the Patriots, you're probably pretty happy with how the season's playing out because Drake May looks like he's going to be a very good quarterback. And you're playing competitive games that are kind of fun to watch, but you're not winning, which is also great because you'll have a better draft pick and you need talent because that's a talent deficient team. So things are working out as they lose. Conversely, the Rams, I wouldn't be surprised if the Rams won the division.
Yeah, I wouldn't be either.
Yeah.
I mean, they looked so lackadaisical last week against Miami, man. Just lethargic, lifeless in that game. They looked unprepared, ready to play at home. And, they're back on the winning side of things. And then, having San Fran lose, they're in the thick of it. I think between Puka and Cooper last week, they had 240 yards receiving between those two guys. When those two guys are healthy, along with Kyron Williams at running back, they're a very dangerous offense. That's an offense that can match up with anybody. I think that was a team that gave the Lions the only loss of the season so far was the Rams. They beat them early in the season.
I think the Lions got the best of them. That was the opening week, I believe.
That was opening week. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Lions lost in week 2. Who did the Lions lose to? I'm trying to think. I don't
remember.
Was it maybe? I think the Vikings. I think they lost to the Vikings. Yeah.
Oh, was it the Vikings?
I think so. I don't remember. I have to look it up.
Okay. But yeah, they're a frisky bunch, man, and they're loaded. With Kobe Parkinson, a tight end, Puka and Cooper, you can't double one of those guys. Those guys are both rock technicians, and with Stafford's ability to throw the ball with anticipation, they're going to be a problem, man. And they have a young front four. I know Aaron Donald's gone, but Javon, the rookie from Florida State, the DN from Florida State, they had a rookie from last year that's playing one in year 2 at DT. they're playing well. They're playing well. It's like now the only question is, can you keep Matthew Stafford upright over the next 7 weeks? And if he's upright and he's healthy, and if you can keep Cooper and Puka healthy, they're gonna be in it. And that's a team that I don't want to see in the playoffs, because with Matthew Stafford's veteran leadership and his ability, and Cooper Kupp's big playability, they can beat anybody. Drake May is starting to he makes the Patriots worth watching now. The offense look watchable. Like they didn't look watchable over the first few months of the season, and now that I think him sitting as well and watching from the sidelines, holding the clipboard, it really helped him out, I think. And look, they're competitive. They're playing hard for Coach Mayo. And now, man, if you add like a Travis Hunter to that offense, you got something, man. You got something there. If you can get him on that offense, and who knows, man, that could be a team for the future.
Yeah, no, exactly. We're talking about the Lions. Their one loss this season was to the Buccaneers in week 2.
Okay.
Yeah. So in the season opener, the Lions beat the Rams in overtime. So it was a close game. Yeah. Which was a rematch of their playoff matchup last year, which the Lions also won. But the Lions' lone loss came to Tampa Bay in week 2. So
yeah,
I'm going to clear that up. Before we move on to talk briefly about college football, is there anything else from the NFL you want to mention that we didn't get to?
I'm looking at the scores and everything. Nah, man. Nah, I think we'll cover the basics.
I guess the last thing I want to point out was just kind of a crazy stat was like Taysom Hill, his day on Sunday. Yeah. I didn't see that coming. I don't think the Browns didn't either. Taysom Hill, 138 yards on the ground with 3 rushing touchdowns, as the Saints moved to 4-7 past the 2-8 Browns. Crazy that Taysom Hill is still playing, still running the same 3 or 4 plays, and apparently running them very effectively in this game.
It's like, I feel like whoever's the coach in New Orleans, whoever comes in next year, will be like, hey, no matter what you do, here Taysom Hill. He's our baby. Like, you can't get rid of him. He is grandfathered into this community of the Saints. Like, yeah, he's a guy. He's going to make a lot of money in New Orleans. He's New Orleans, and New Orleans is own. When it comes to when they paid him a few years ago, 17, I think it was 17 a year, as a gadget guy, I'm like, bro, like he must be in cahoots with the owner, man. Like, what is going on in New Orleans that he's getting paid that kind of money? Because but again, once or twice a year, he has these crazy ass games with the 4 plays that he gets, and he looks like he's worth the money for those 2 weeks or those 3 weeks out of a 17 week calendar.
Yeah. And he even completed a pass, which is very rare that he even threw a pass, because every time I see him come in the game, he just kind of runs up the middle. Like that seems like that's the only play. But he actually completed a pass. He caught some passes, and he also ran the ball really well. So
he's gonna be a guy, like he's gonna be one of those guys where like in 2028, he's gonna be like 37 years old, 38 years old. Like, he's still playing football. He's still out there. Like, he's gonna be one of those guys. I'm telling you, watch.
Yeah, surprising that a guy like he's been pretty durable too. I mean, he does have injuries occasionally, but for a guy who is touches the ball quite often, whether it be catching a pass or taking a handoff, he seems to keep on going.
Yeah,
pretty good career that he's carved out for himself. Let's talk about college football a little bit. From Saturday, before we talk about the new college football ranking, which just dropped, the playoff ranking, let's talk about some of the highlights from Saturday. You had the big Georgia-Tennessee game where Georgia absolutely shut down Tennessee in the second half to get the win. You had number 1 Oregon barely surviving against Wisconsin on the road. And then you had Colorado continues its rise. They're not in the playoff yet, but I think they could be if they win the Big 12. Frank, what stood out for you from Saturday's games?
You saw good Carson Beck against Tennessee. Like he was making plays. You see the arm talent. You see the ability to make throws with high level of anticipation. It's just you don't know what Carson Beck you're getting. That's the problem. Like, I don't know if I'm going to get the Carson Beck from the first half of the Bama game, Carson Beck of second half of the Ole Miss game, like you don't know what you're getting. But when he's on, he's one of the best in the country when he's on. Yeah. I still don't know about the weapons on the outside. Like they don't have a lot of explosion on the outside. And I think that's why Carson has these bouts of struggling because like the lack of like they don't have a George Pickens out there, they don't have a McCole Hardman out there, they don't have a McConkey out there. These are a lot of like young guys that he's throwing to. But maybe they're making a name for themselves as as it gets to playoff season. But now they look good. They look good. On the other end, Nico Maivia, since coming to conference play, he's been up and down. I know he had a concussion a couple weeks ago. He came back for this game, but he's a redshirt freshman. These are the dog days of summer when it comes to a young underclass quarterback. Like you're gonna have games where he looks good, and you're gonna have games where like he struggles with his decision making. But Tennessee's on the rise, man. They're gonna be next year. Tennessee's team, I can see them being the number one team probably in the championship next year. Nico's gonna be battle tested. I think going through this gauntlet of playing Bama and playing Georgia and all these teams in the SEC, he's gonna be battle tested for next year. But that game really caught my attention. Mm-hmm. I know Wisconsin lost, but they showed me something against Oregon. They really battled Oregon all throughout, and it took a late interception for Oregon to win. Yeah. That game impressed me as well. That Wisconsin game. Texas, I mean, it wasn't pretty, but I expected a game to be close. One thing about SEC road games, man, you can't overlook SEC road game if you're a top tier SEC team, man, because Tennessee just a couple weeks ago lost in Arkansas to that team, and Texas, man, they were moving the ball, man, but they just had bouts of like they looked real lethargic. They couldn't seem to finish off drives.
Yeah,
and the defense played great. Like if you told me, hey, Texas defense went 6 sacks, a couple turnovers, and give up 13 points, oh, that's a win. But it was a one-score game, so it's one of those things where you just got to survive, man. In SEC, and as a Texas fan, I'm starting to learn now, man, to not take these road games for granted. Like anybody can go down at any point in time, and you got to be in P's and Q's. So yeah, those are some of the games I caught my attention. Kansas State, man. I mean, Kansas being BYU late Saturday night. Like again, BYU had an opportunity to really, put a chokehold in the Big 12, and they played just bad turnovers, man. Like their quarterback threw an interception in the end zone. Couple late turnovers in that game, man, and Jalen Daniels for Kansas, man, he played great. He was able to make plays when it mattered, and Kansas was able to throw that able to crash the party a little bit on BYU's CFP hopes.
Yeah, it definitely did, and good transition there because the latest CFP rankings, the third week of the playoff rankings, came out tonight. And they are as follows: Oregon still number 1, Ohio State number 2, Texas number 3, Penn State number 4, Indiana number 5, Notre Dame number 6, Alabama moves up to number 7, Miami's number 8, Ole Miss number 9, Georgia number 10, Tennessee number 11, number 12 Boise State replacing BYU at the back end of the rankings. Frank, what about the top 12? Does anything jump out to you?
Indiana at 5 jumps out to me. Indiana plays Ohio State pretty soon. And
this Saturday.
Yeah, they have a chance to make history, man. They have a chance to have a bye. Like if I would have told you the Hoosiers have a chance to have a bye, you'd be like, the basketball team, the Hoosiers, is Coach Knight back? Like they're, I think that Michigan game, Michigan struggled this year. They showed me something. They showed a lot of grit in that game. They have a chance to really make some noise, man. If they can beat Ohio State. And Ohio State, look, man, they're not unbeatable now. They've had games where they've looked like they're on the ropes a little bit. I mean, against Penn State, they look like on the ropes a little bit. They had a couple games where they were, kind of teetering a little bit. So this could be a game where Indiana can grab the bull by the horns. Notre Dame, man. Notre Dame has they had that horrible loss against
It was Northern Illinois.
There you go. Northern Illinois. After beating A&M, they had that horrible loss against Northern Illinois, and it looked bleak, but they haven't lost since. They played great.
Yeah.
I still have questions about Riley Leonard at quarterback. I don't know about him. I don't know if he is a guy that can make plays with his arm down the stretch, but they're running the ball with reckless abandonment. Their defense is playing really, really good. They have a chance to really make noise. Clemson, I know they have 2 losses, but Clemson, SMU, and Miami are going to be vying for a bye come December, and it's going to be. I can't wait to see how that goes down. Miami could lose one more game. They lose one more game. That's going to cause a lot of chaos in the ACC. So I'm going to look out for that as well. And Oregon, man, again, they they get by from the skin of their teeth against Wisconsin. Same against when they played BYU, when they played Boise State. They got by on the skin of their teeth. They keep finding ways to win. So we shall see, man. The Big Ten title game, we shall see if they play Indiana or Ohio State, and let's see where it goes.
Yeah, my question for you, Frank, with Indiana and Ohio State playing on Saturday,
if
Indiana loses, does Indiana drop out of the top 12? Because they're undefeated, but they haven't had the toughest schedule. Obviously, Michigan being down didn't help them this year. I kind of wonder, because I know the thought on them is they really haven't played anybody yet, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder if they'll fall out, given the teams that are behind them. Yeah,
they haven't played anybody that was ranked when they played them. Michigan was already not ranked at that point.
Yeah,
Western Illinois. It's possible, man, because BYU lost and they fell out of the top 12, and BYU schedule I think was stronger than Indiana's schedule as far as like SOS. Right. So they could fall out, but with Indiana, they could get back in if they get into the title game and win. So
exactly.
So even if they do fall out, they have that opportunity to right the ship. So if you're Indiana, just don't lose. Make it undeniable to where you just don't lose and go undefeated. You go undefeated, you're pretty much a top 3 team.
Yeah.
Because Georgia, because the SEC champs gonna have at least 1 or 2, probably 2 losses. Because if Texas wins out and they play, let's say Texas plays Georgia in the SEC championship game, and they lose again, that's 2 losses, right? And Georgia has 2 losses. I think if Indiana has 1 loss or no losses, they leapfrog both those teams. And if Indiana has 1 loss, I will put a 1 loss in the Indiana team at the end of the season versus the SEC champ, because the SEC is down this year. Everybody has 2 losses already outside of Texas, and Texas has been teetering a little bit. They got a big game against Kentucky this weekend, and then they close with A&M. Yeah. So that's not guaranteed that Texas comes away with just 1 loss. They can have 2 losses as well, and if that happens, you got chaos now, because you got BYU 1 loss, Indiana possibly 1 loss. SEC, everybody with 2 losses. So it could be chaos with the 12-team playoff.
Yeah, no, very good point. We thought with the obviously having 12 teams sounds better than having 4, and I think a lot of people thought, that's going to take a lot of the controversy out of it. And in theory, you have a bigger field, more teams are going to be in the playoff, but the controversy now might not be the ones that are left out. It might be where the ones who are in, where they're positioned because of the first 4 teams getting a bye.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see how all this plays out. And will the favoritism of, traditional power like Alabama or Georgia, will they rise where, even with a couple losses, where a newcomer like Indiana or someone like that, will they fall out with 1 loss? So it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. Looking forward to kind of seeing how this college football thing works for the first time.
Because with the Big Ten, Justin, they have the strongest case.
Yeah,
the Big Ten, you have Oregon 11-0, Ohio State 9-1, Penn State 9-1, Indiana 10-0. You can make the case that the Big Ten is a stronger conference this year as far as its record. Now, as far as strength of schedule, it could be the SEC, but the Big Ten, man, they're strong. They can have 4 teams in the top 12 come December. It's very possible.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be fun. We have like about a month left to go in college football, so we'll be watching. We'll be talking about it. Finally, from the chat, we have a question here from Yesenia asking if this is the place to discuss the Beyonce halftime show. That's right. We got news this week that the Texans are hosting the Ravens on Christmas Day, which will be a Netflix game. Netflix has 2 games on Christmas Day, one of which is the Texans hosting the Ravens. We found out this week that Beyonce, Houston's own, is going to be the halftime show. Frank, what are your thoughts on that? And also, it's like, so I didn't realize like now, like these holiday games are having like Super Bowl quality halftime shows. It's crazy.
I'm just not. Thank you for breaking the news, Yesenia. I had no idea. I'm just not hearing it for the first time. Okay. I did not see that. That's interesting. That's okay. I mean, look, the NFL is smart. Like they're trying to dominate Christmas. I mean, NBA that's been the NBA for years. And how do you dominate it? By putting football and putting top tier entertainment at halftime. And Beyonce hasn't performed live on TV for a while now, so to grab headlines, I mean that's smart on them. To have Beyonce at halftime and Kendrick Lamar in Super Bowl in February, NFL's holding it down, man. They're holding it down.
You send his response. Don't expect Netflix to work that night. Obviously, referencing the Jake Paul Tyson problems they had with the site. You know, Frank, you made a really good point there about competing with the NBA on Christmas Day.
Yeah.
And I do think if this becomes if Netflix like puts their flag down on Christmas Day with the NFL, they're gonna take over because the NBA is not gonna be able to compete. I mean, the NFL the last 5 years has had a game on Christmas Day. They found a way to do it, and they've kind of taken that day away from the NBA. And I don't see how the NBA could ever get it back, honestly. I know ever is a long time, but I just don't see it happening.
I would say this, Jay. I think the NFL and NBA are playing a dangerous game from the standpoint of putting all these games on streaming services. Like, for example, I know this is a celebrity, a lower level event, but the Jake Paul thing was a debacle. Like
people watched it though.
Yeah, people watched it, but like, there was issues like just like get on the servers and like watching the fight. I didn't watch the fight, but like there was complaints about that. That was Jake Paul. Yeah. You have an NFL game where like you're expecting 15 to 20 million people to watch it, and that shit happens again. That could be hell to pay. And then on top of that, you're playing a dangerous game of like the common viewer who don't have cable, let alone a streaming service, to watch these games. And I don't know if long term that's going to be the winning formula as far as viewership.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think that they're just kind of going to leave people behind. Honestly, this is the way it's going to work. I do think though, like for Christmas Day, that like you should still have those on the networks, or they should be available for people to watch. I mean, for the NFL to only have 2 games on Christmas and for them both to be on Netflix, I think that's a little bit too much. And I'm sure the broadcast partners aren't thrilled. I'm sure like ESPN, ABC, CBS, and Fox are probably not like super happy to give up those games because people are gathered, people are at home. It's kind of a captive audience, and obviously the NFL is the most popular sport in our country by a country mile. So I'm sure those networks are not super happy about that, but this is we're seeing the future like before our eyes, and I just think people are going to get left behind, unfortunately. But I also think you have a good point, like for the NBA, like maybe you should try to be more network friendly if somehow, like because honestly, I don't think their product is right now. Maybe if you're trying to sell me on like, oh, go to Amazon to watch the NBA, like maybe I will because I've been an NBA fan for a long time, but I mean, to me the product is kind of down, so it's a tougher sell if I have to like now I'm paying for a service to watch games that used to be quote unquote free. That's kind of a tough sell.
Very, very much so. Like I know with the Dolphins Chiefs game last year, when that game was over with, like, was it like 28-30% of people dropped the subscription to Peacock? Like, it was
I
like,
mean, yeah, but I mean, like for Peacock, that's a success. If they got to retain 60 to 70% of people for even for another month,
yeah.
that's a win for them.
Hmm.
But for, granted, there are people who didn't have Peacock who weren't able to watch that game. And
Hmm.
that sucks to me. Like like if it's a regular season game, okay. But like playoffs and on these special holidays, I would make it where the largest audience possible could watch the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that. It's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be interesting to see, like, with all everything 4 games of NBA on Christmas on ESPN, what the numbers are gonna look like as far as like the NBA numbers, primarily the Warriors game at 7 p.m.
Yeah.
as opposed the ratings for the Netflix numbers on that streaming. I want to see what that looks like. 'Cause I know
Yeah.
the Mavs play the Wolves at noon that day, same time the Chiefs play the Steelers. So
Yeah.
I want to see what the numbers look like because ESPN is easier to get to because it's cable as opposed
Yeah.
and it's on DirecTV, cable, and on streaming networks as opposed to Netflix is just primarily just streaming. So
Yeah, one of the thing about the streamers is that's kind of unique or not unique, but they don't really release their information unless it's good. So, like, if 35 million people watch those games, they'll let you know.
yeah.
But if it's less than what they expected, you'll never find out.
Mhm.
So, or it'll be, maybe some media columnist who really follows this stuff might be able to keep track of it in some way. But the streamers are very protective of their data, which, you know, uh, good for them, but for like advertisers, obviously you want to know, like, are people watching this stuff? If we're going to buy, time, is the audience going to actually see our product? So that's part of this streaming world we're in. It's a
Yeah.
different world, and we're trying to navigate it. All of us are consumers and people who work in the industry. So be be interested to see how it all plays out. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. We still got a few weeks before we get to Christmas, and hell, we've got another week before we get to Thanksgiving. So anyway, that about does it for the show this week. We appreciate everybody who joined us in the live chat. That's the best way to join us, in my opinion. Want to give a shout out to Drew, our brother in the north, to King B. Johnson, of course, and to Rich Diana. That's a relatively new name, I think, for
Okay.
us. So thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. Hopefully you like and subscribe. That always helps us out. And to Yesenia, who came in with the late question about Beyonce. We appreciate you joining us as well, and always giving us support on social media. We do these live stream podcasts here on YouTube, but if video is not your thing, don't worry, we got you covered. We're on audio platforms also. We're on Apple Podcasts and we're on Spotify. So please go there, subscribe to us there, give us a 5-star rating. We appreciate that. And of course, you can find our podcast on social media. Find us at Watchers Basement, and be sure to use the hashtag Watchers Basement. So that about does it for our thoughts on week 11 of the NFL season and for the latest college football stuff. So for Frank, I'm Justin saying thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We will see you next time. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Yes, sir.